Uh,
I remember I was landing, I was first time, so I was first time traveling to Kinshasa for the role. So I knew, it's kind of scary, but that happened every time with me. You're landing somewhere and you will be staying there, and you can't just test, see, do I like it? No, you're landing there, you have all of your luggage, and you have to prove yourself, and you have certain targets and people to meet immediately and perform to the highest kind of standard of this organization. So I think it was tricky, but I think the fact that I had this role that I had to perform, I think for me, for my personality, it was helpful. I was focusing on that and those small things that I was like, how do I solve all these problems, people around me and noises, how to find a flat and, things that are becomes complicated when you're not from the location, like especially I would say on the continent, on the African continent, I had some help. There was the help of the company. I had 3 months of the, accommodation organized, and there were some other things. But then, there are things that they don't organize. They're not organizing, and your free time, your friends, you know, you you don't necessarily in Kinshasa. It's a great, very dynamic city, very big. However, you don't have the same level, obviously, like London or any bustling city with a lot of, single people that want to, go out, they want to eat out, that don't want to see this thing. It's very different dynamics. So there is a small area normally that you would be able to go out, but then after a month, you know this area of the city, and this is the place you can go out. And there are a few places, and then you start seeing the same people, which has its own, great sides, but it's very different. It shifts you so much. Your life become very different. Like
of course.
really.
I mean, that's now that we are talking already about challenges and surprising moments. I had a couple of questions about exactly that. Like, how did you make friends in there? How did you make personal connections with the locals? Even like I don't know if
Mm.
you live really in a bubble. Other guests that I had, they describe it very much like you are in a protected place, and then you live in there. You move out only in district. What you were saying, no, like in designated areas. And how was it?
I think it was a little bit like this, and it wasn't with me. So there were a few things. So obviously there were my colleagues that I was working with, and they were in my office. And through the years, I would get closer to some and not so close to others. And I think there is this thing again that colleagues that were from another country, we kind of would be. They would be all Africans, but we would get closer. And I'm still very close with a lot of people, just because maybe they didn't have so many family members next to them. I think it's part of that. People that were really from the city, from that town or a village somewhere nearby, they would have so many, I think, personal time spent with different things, organizing things for the families. I think part of that was that they weren't as available. And, otherwise, people that had their families a bit farther away, or they might have small family, but they weren't so busy. I think I was able to build with them great friendships. I think there was a challenge though. So, I would not have so many friends. So just to give you an example, in Abidjan, I had one friend, very good Senegalese from my office, very, very good friend of mine. We worked together and we did a lot of things together as well. But we were kind of similar. I was outside, she was also on her own, and we were kind of spending our time together. And other than that, I had another friend from Luxembourg, Marie-Laure, who was coming in exactly the same time as me. She was coming to EY, so also kind of like a expat totally. She was coming on her own from Europe, and then we became like, we were always together. We would meet every day, Marc. Every day. Like, this is not possible in London, right? You don't do that in Paris or in
No,
London. So it's a very different dynamic. And it's almost like we always had something to talk about. We always had somewhere to go and eat. And there was so many things that we were doing together that would never happen to us, like police chasing us, like people chasing us, some random guys chasing us, like everything was kind of funny, but on the spot sometimes things were very different. We had to we were working, I think, together. We were together because it was easier, like things were, when we were two, we were kind of not necessarily safer, but kind of stronger. So it was different. I didn't have number of people, friends, acquaintances. I would just have acquaintances, I would say, from the office, friends from the office and friends outside. I think what I did develop, and this was exceptional related to the role that I had, was that starting from the moment I moved to Kinshasa, I was account manager leading the account. So I was the representative of the company and also entertaining a customer or customers. So that meant that I was going out and inviting customers a lot. So both in Benin and in Kinshasa, which actually meant, I remember it was a moment when I had a driver that, so I was giving a driver in a car in Kinshasa, and my driver was finishing like his job was finishing at 9 p.m. And I remember after 1 month, I had to go back to my boss and say that I have to have a driver 24/7 because I'm dropping off customers. So they are relying on me that I'll pick them up. That was the kind of, I'll pick them up with the driver and I'll drop them off 11 o'clock or midnight or 11 o'clock, let's say. So they gave me, like, I had a special 24/7 actually chauffeur service. And that shows that my time was, and they became my friends. I would say, customer is always a different relationship, but to be frank, like, I was seeing some of my customers a lot, once a week outside of the office, So definitely, I think it's different than what I've seen in Europe. Yeah.
I have two questions more about the challenges, and you touched them briefly individually, let's say like this. The first one, it's clearly you are a single woman in a clearly male-dominated industry in a country that it's maybe have different cultural ways of doing business, probably, and dealing a lot with clients. How you adapted to the cultural changes, and we will touch that a little bit more, because I prepared a mini game about business relations. But how difficult was for you being a white woman in this kind of industry in an African country?
Specifically that, in telecommunications area where I work, I think even in Ericsson, that is a Swedish company, women are 20% or 30% max. So any even customer, it was rare. I would say when I was working, my customer was MTN Benin. There were quite a lot of women on the higher level. So I was talking to women, as MTN is that kind of company. I would say rather that this would be men. A lot of engineers, obviously, I was dealing with network planners, CTO, CIO would be most of the time over there a man. I think I had this benefit of them knowing immediately that I am from outside, like that I'm a white woman, that I'm foreign, that I'm not knowing, that there are certain things that I don't know. I think it's a little bit like, it first gives you they give you that benefit of a doubt that she's coming from outside. And I think, as long as you earn trust and you earn your stripes, so to speak, you perform as this helper, as a salesperson, you're a helper, to fix things. Things are to go smooth. I think I would say they probably would give me 1 month in their mind. When they saw me, they were like, who is this girl? She's so pale. Like one of my friends, my customer, who then 1 year later told me, you were sitting there and I'm looking in your hands and I'm like, who did they send here? She's so pale. But basically he was thinking of me as how will I survive? Like, this is really tough, coming to DRC. And I wasn't looking tough, I guess, as I was just looking normal. Like I look normal. So I wasn't looking tough. I think also they were used to having men in these roles. I think there were differences, but I was giving a little bit of room, knowing that I'm from outside and I will be different. So I was not trying to do business and discussions, conversations, entertainment as if I was from the country, because that wouldn't work. And also, I don't know. So no one was telling me. I was behaving almost the same way I would in Europe. And I think they kind of, people that were working with me, when they already were trusting me and seeing that I want their good, that I don't want to sell them some crap, like that I am on their side. I think they were giving me that room, that sometimes it will be a bit different, maybe, I don't know, even maybe I laugh more, or there are certain things that I wouldn't know. I do think that I noticed that was maybe after a year, certain things that are, you as a someone from outside, you don't realize certain things. You only afterwards realize it. And actually after a year, after a conversation with a customer that made me a little bit more aware of that, I only then realized, and I started to be quite careful, that me being an account manager, the salesperson, talking constantly to the same people, because, I would have like 5 major contacts, and there will be other people, but, those were, CFO, CTO, big guys, and also engineers, that from outside, that could be that, for someone, for the wives of these guys, that could potentially be like not threatening, but I was completely oblivious. And then I had this realization. Someone was asking me what I think about that maybe someone thinks there is something else. And then I was like, I don't care. I can't care. And I was continuing the same way. And then, it's kind of like, I can't change what someone else thinks. Ultimately, I'm me, and I represent the best way I can the company, and I'm trying to do my job the best way. But doing my job would be going every day to the 5th floor to see the CFO in the office to make sure that our collection is paid, or certain things. So basically, I kind of couldn't. It's almost like everything could be lose-lose. Like, you can't win everything. And I think because I was like not, I was careful, but I couldn't really afterwards second guess myself, because you're not in someone else. So someone did tell me that, what I think about that, and maybe there are some gossips, and I was just laughing and thinking like, well, that's a joke, because but indeed there are, I think, because there is a big proximity, in the way that if I was an account manager, and I'm actually working now as an account manager in Equinix in Warsaw, I don't go to see my customers so often at all. Like, we meet once, even if a quarter. There is a lot of people in the room. It's a very different way of doing business. But I also think, because it was a different business, I had one customer or two. So basically means I know everyone in that company, and my job is to know everyone in that company. And today I have 40 customers, maybe 50, and they come to me when they need something. And over there, it was kind of making sure that things don't go badly, because the business was so big. Even going further, when I was in Cotonou in Benin Republic, the CTO requirement, or kind of like a jokey requirement, but that was actually a requirement, was that I sit in the customer office across his glass door, so that he sees me, that I am in his office, that I'm here. If he needs me, I will be there. So while I was working for someone else, I was sitting in the customer offices, and that proximity was requirement. Even that proximity that kind of you see, and kind of obviously it's easy as well. This person is here to help me. I need something, I'll ask her. That's probably ideal, right? When you think from the customer point of view.
Yeah, it's more like personal relation at the same time. Not
Yeah,
personal.
yeah,
It's still professional, but it's more close in
very.
that sense. No,
It
and
is.
and it's interesting that you say that you needed to adapt a little bit, but a lot of clients also needed to adapt to your way, the other way around, and then
Yeah,
that's
I think
funny
they
also.
did.
Well, that's good. It shows character at least. That's
Yeah,
for sure.
well, it also shows their flexibility. Customers are very flexible, I think, on the continent, on the African continent, I would say.
Nice. Before we jump to the cultural deep dive and checking a little bit, I prepared a couple of expat mini games as I like to call them.
Yeah.
But I would like you to for show explain to our listeners if who are considering working or moving to a not so obvious expat destination,
Hmm.
especially in West Africa, what would be the biggest tip that you will give, the number one survival tip that you would
Hmm.
give to them?
I think something that is easy, makes things easier when you're actually deciding and already moving, is to keep something in your rituals or something that you like doing, whether this is activity or something that you can replicate there. Because there are so many variables, there are so many things that are changing and will be changing. And just as I was saying about the sun setting, just the weather, the feel that you have on the street. There are certain locations, me coming from rainy London, it's impacted me quite. So I think when you can keep something or recreate it, that gives you this peace and kind of, if you can do it every day, your kind of routine. So I started to run. I was a runner before. I stopped running obviously when I didn't know where to run when I arrived to Abidjan. This is really busy. There's a lot of cars, and there is no pavement. I was in the area that was kind of a busy district with a lot of restaurants, and there was just no space to run. So suddenly I was like not very happy and thinking, okay, I'll have to run in this gym, and I don't like running on the treadmill. And I was feeling already, my mood was like, or another thing that was a little bit pulling me down. And then I saw one person from my office that was in my apartment block, a Nigerian project manager that had this small light behind his back, and he was running between the cars at night. And I was like, I spoke to him, and he's like, yeah, I have a great route. I have a light for you. Come and join me tomorrow. And I was like, wait. And I was like, it's like really you have cars like in a traffic jam and you have to run there, and it's dark and there is no big lights. At least at that time there wasn't big lights, on the street. So this was how he found his way, and he was probably coming from Lagos, so Abidjan, no big deal for him. It's a bigger city than Abidjan. And I started run with him, and we were running every day together, and it just changed my mood. It kind of gave me this power. I'm able to do something I loved, and I thought I have to give up. And actually, no, there is always a way, and I was continuing that. When he left, I continued. I had my own lights. I was running on my own, and I was doing always his route. It was super safe. It kind of was helping me to clear my mind. But this whole feeling that you can overcome your fear and do something for yourself for this 40 minutes. So I think in line with that, it's great if you can to try to keep something from your routine.